All right, everybody. So today I'm with Gray. He is a DBOG developer who is on the development team big time. He's one of the guys making this possible. And I'm going to go ahead and interview him, ask him some questions regarding DBOG and the creation of the game, and hopefully answer a lot of your guys' concerns and questions because let's just say that there's big changes coming to DBOG. You ready, Gray?
Hey, yeah, let's do it.
Okay. Okay. So my first question, this is one that I see probably the most, or if not like top two. Why was Legendary Super Saiyan removed, and why was it replaced with Savior from Heaven?
Yeah, so to kind of keep things short, we wanted to reserve Legendary Super Saiyan for future paths and a couple of other cool things to expect. And so we were thinking of what we could change it for. So we decided on the Savior from Heaven form, which we just thought was pretty cool and unique, and I think fit the legendary form a little bit more than Legendary Super Saiyan did.
Mm-hmm. Um, and some people were wondering why it didn't just like replace Legendary Super Saiyan in the sense where you didn't have to do the quest again.
Yeah, I mean, it was gonna be a little bit more tricky than we'd expect to replace it. That's one of the things we had in mind was just replacing it. However, it proved to be way more challenging than we thought it would with how currently DBOG is set up. Um, Going forward, we'd like to find better ways to prevent having to lose anything. That's the last thing we'd ever want. But it was more so just something we had to do with the cards we were dealt.
So it's just like it's how DBOG is scripted. It's scripted kind of weirdly, and over time there's going to be like repairs to that so that way stuff like this is going to be prevented, right?
Yeah, essentially.
Okay, because I don't know anything about coding except for the fact that it can be really a pain in the butt and confusing and hard. Like if you mess up somewhere down the line, it can be really hard to correct it if other stuff is built on that.
Yeah, especially with how old DBOG is, because a lot of
Yeah,
people don't understand that it's like from 2019, 2020. It's been a couple years at this point.
yeah, and
So the
coding
code's old.
has evolved a little bit, I'd assume.
Yeah, correct, yeah.
Okay, so with paths, so a while ago, the idea of paths was brought up, and now we're bringing it up again. So
Correct.
paths were confirmed and they were deconfirmed. Now they're confirmed again. Will paths
Yep.
be limited once you choose one?
So we're still debating the idea of what we want to do. We'll eventually ask the community when it's time to kind of pick an answer. We're either stuck between no, there's no way you can ever change it, or you would be able to change paths regarding maybe something like a Dragon Wish or a Shenron Wish, something along those lines. It's just something we haven't fully decided yet, but we'd love for the community to give us their opinions once we go ahead and start actually beginning the work on the paths.
Okay. And then will other races see paths like Saiyans? Because we've only really discussed Saiyan paths.
Yeah, we have paths planned for every single race, and we have something called generalized paths, which are basically paths that any race can go no matter what. An example would be like the Kaioken mastery path, where you can advance your Kaioken stages, and Kaiokens become incredibly useful.
Gotcha. So now that that's out of the way, it's time for big question number two, which is what everybody's probably here for. So I'll start with this and then I'll ask a follow up question. So, how long does it take to develop updates for DBOG? So, specifically, what do you consider to be a small update, a medium update, and a large update? And how long does it take each of those to be developed?
Yeah, so there's a couple of things to really look at. Defining what a small, medium, and large is kind of it's hard to kind of pick and choose which one I consider. For me, if you take a look at what some of the things we've done, when we first updated DBOG with a brand new team, that was a medium-sized update where we just kind of overhauled a lot of systems. We improved the lighting. We fixed a bunch of things, a bunch of bugs that have been, in the game for a bit. That I would consider that a medium-sized update, something that would take anywhere from 2 to 3, maybe 4 weeks. As for small updates, that's every 1 to 2 weeks. An example would be of what happened Thursday night. That's a consideration of a small update where we maybe throw a couple new skills, a couple new clothes, etc. Just small fixes and stuff. I consider that a small update. Large update for us would be maybe like, when we implement Buu Saga, that's what I consider a large update where it's actual hard level based content where, the players take a while to kind of progress and go through.
And how long does it take? Wink, wink, nudge, nudge for one of those big updates. What's the time frame
Yeah,
looking like?
that'll vary dependent on complexity, whereas
Yeah.
some large updates are as simple as like one map, 20 missions. Another one could be maybe three maps, 25 missions. So it all really depends on what's needed for the update exactly, how many unique mechanics are coming.
Mm-hmm.
But I would say anywhere from maybe any it's a wider range, but anywhere from 2 to 4 months realistically.
Okay. And so we talk about mechanics, stuff like that. What are we looking at with the Buu Saga update? Because we know that's the next big update.
Mhm.
What what are we expecting from that? What's that gonna look like without spoiling too much, but stuff that you might have already said in like my live stream or in the Discord server, you can go ahead and say again if you'd like.
Yes.
What are we
So I'll
looking
go
at?
ahead and start with one of the things it won't come with. It will not come with Pass. That's going to be a separate update.
Okay.
So, don't expect Super Saiyan 4, Super Saiyan God to come out with Buu Saga. That's not happening. Simply said, we want more time and preparation for that to come in through. But we've got ideas for placements, such as some things that will come with Buu Saga would be like Patara. That's one of the main things, and introducing kind of a unique mechanic with it, um, to where it's something different than fusion, something a little bit better, a little bit more hard to achieve, but worthwhile. Um, the basics, Busaka story, a nice new map, a couple skills, some mentors, some exciting raids. There's a really cool raid that we've got coming with Busaga, things of that nature.
So Patara, um, raids. Is there a new world for Buu Saga?
Yes, that will be the final big new world.
Okay. So we're looking at a huge update with Buu Saga, and this is going to be the last traditional. I say with air quotes traditional DBOG update,
Yeah, correct. Realistically, the saga maps and everything, they take too long.
and we're looking to
Um,
change that.
Yeah, and luckily, I think after Boo, every arc in Dragon Ball Super and Dragon Ball GT is relatively smaller compared to the size of Dragon Ball Z.
Z has like four main arcs and it spans 300 episodes, while Super has like what five arcs,
I think it's six
six,
technically. Yeah.
and like so we count Battle of Gods, Resurrection F, 6 versus 7, Goku Black, and then would we count everything before the Tournament of Power as an arc, or would we just count
Um,
all of that as an arc?
I would count that as an arc because there was that weird
The
set of like,
tournament exhibition.
yeah, there was like a weird set of like 5 to 6 episodes where it was like on that planet with Copy Vegeta, like the purple
Yeah,
sludge thingy. That happened for like 4 or 5 episodes, I think.
but that's not really an arc that we would explore.
Yeah, it'd be like, yeah, stuff like that, it wouldn't be anything main, so it'd be like, yeah, Raul of Ev, Battle of Gods, U6 versus U7, um,
Goku Black,
Goku Black, and Tournament of Power. Maybe the exhibition could be thrown in there.
and then obviously Broly and Superhero.
Yeah, Broly superhero movie, and then for GT you have Baby, Super 17.
Dude, don't forget
uh,
about like Rildo and Lude. Come on, bro.
who?
Lord Lude and General Rildo. Come on,
Who?
Gray. Those are big arcs.
Uh,
When is OG Dragon Ball coming, Gray? I need Ina Shikacho as a boss raid. And
okay, I don't think.
Ina Shikacho not confirmed for DBOG? That
I, I
sucks.
I think I will. I think I'll say it's not confirmed.
Okay. Not confirmed, but not denied. We'll say. We'll leave it at that.
You know
Um,
what? Yeah, we could leave it at that.
yeah. So that makes sense how like a Z arc is literally like 100 episodes almost.
Yeah,
Versus
no,
like Super being 100 episodes and GT literally is like 63 or something like that.
yeah.
And so with the like what are we gonna look at? Like what is an update gonna look like? A big update post the Buu Saga for DBOG.
Yeah, so at that point, it's going to contain maybe one to two, I guess we call them story arcs. So, for example, and this isn't me confirming anything, more so just kind of talking as a hypothetical. It could be like Baby Arc and Battle of Gods would come out together at the same time,
Mm-hmm.
in different, methods with maybe, content forms. To us, I think PAPs would be considered a large update because PAPs aren't going to be, very bare bones and simple, like, oh, level 400, you can pick a path. No, it's going to have a whole system to it. So I would consider that like a big update. Um, Essentially, Buu Saga is more like past a big update, I would say. It's past like the large update. I feel like it's like,
It's an enormous update,
yeah, it's like the huge update where it's like the whole saga. That's big.
which is
After
why they
that, it's
take
going to
so
go back to
long.
large. Yeah, and then large updates would be, like I said, 2 to 4 months, more so sticking closer to the two than the four.
Yeah.
That's the hope.
So with the hope idea,
Mhm.
what is this hope based off of? Because we have this new dev team, right? What is that? What are we looking at like that? Like why is now different than before?
Yeah, for so those who don't exactly know the whole story, without giving the entire story, Chang stepped up as owner and Sunny stepped down as essentially the co-owner. Um, this gives Sunny a lot more free time to kind of worry about just developing and scripting and working on what he wants to do, rather than having to manage all the other devs, making sure everything's in line, doing this, doing that, doing all of this. There is a lot less work on his hand. And now Chang has the opportunity to stand up and do a lot more and, delegate and get a lot more people involved. I've been able to step up and help in several regards to development as well as taking a big push in management and making sure everyone's on task. We've got two new side scripters as well, one that primarily focuses on bugs and fixes, and another one that focuses more on content. So there's a more powerful team kind of put together and organized in a way where we all know what we're doing, we all know what we want, and we're just doing it at that point. Um, so there's a lot more motivation, I'd say, and a lot more drive to kind of get things done now that everything's kind of shaped up to be in a much better environment.
I'm gonna come back to the dev team, but I asked that question and like why is you know why are we expecting the next big update sooner? Why is that gonna be so amazing as compared to before? How we've waited so long and maybe for something lackluster.
Oh,
You
yeah, no,
gave
I mean,
you gave the reasoning, the new
yeah.
dev team and everything. So what is that next update looking like? And I'm not just talking about Boo Saga. Like, what's the next thing we're looking forward to as of right now? We've just come off the Akatsuki robe update.
Mhm.
So
So
what is next? And maybe if it's another small update like that, what is the next like sort of medium thing we're looking forward to?
So the next, I'll start with this. The small updates don't have very big planning. It's more so we kind of get together, notice a couple things, and get it done.
Yeah.
Mediums have planning involved, and I'll just go ahead and kind of discuss the medium a bit. It's going to be Halloween, right? That's coming up. It's always been a staple in DBOG, but we wanted to make it a little bit more advanced and interesting. Um, without giving away the details and spoiling everybody, it's very cool. It's different than what you're used to because before,
It's
for
not
those
going
of
to
you
be
that
the
know,
same kind of weird copy paste raid.
yeah, you don't fight Mira and Toa and get Halloween drops anymore. No, it's an actual Halloween themed update.
There's jump
So
scares coming, guys, is what he means.
no promises, but no, yeah, we're very excited. We've started working on all of this. We have a lot of stuff done already. We're about, I want to say, like 40% done with what we need to get done on our end. It's just about finding a good time to release, enough time to test everything and make sure everything works, and just getting the rest done. But there's a lot of this update already kind of done, and it's been working on before the small update. Because the small update, what lets us do is when we're working on these medium to large size updates, we can get these small updates out while working because they're not big. It's not hard to do that stuff. So ever since we dropped the last medium-sized update, which was about a week ago, we've been working. I mean, to put it simply, I mean, we've been working on the Halloween update, and we even got a small update out, and we've been doing bug fixes consistently. Um, I believe not too long. I think 2 days ago we fixed about 6 major bugs that had been in the game for a while, and some new that appeared. Um, so I mean, yeah, I mean, look forward to the Halloween update. It's gonna be fun. It's gonna be huge. I'm already liking this update a lot, and from what we've been developing, I mean, I love the stuff we're working on. I think it's really cool. So I'm looking forward for everyone to kind of see it in game, and once we announce it and do some proper sneaks and maybe even a trailer, we can show it off a little bit.
Gotcha. What does the process look like of making an update like that, or a big DBOG update, or just whatever? What is the process of making a DBOG update? Because I want to reiterate that update that we got about a week ago, it took them 3 days of actual work to make it. Because
Mhm.
you told me on live stream it took 5 days, kinda. So day one was Sony stepped down and
Mhm.
Chang stepped up. Day two was planning, and then it took 3 days of work, and you put out that big update.
Yeah, essentially. Um,
So what is it? How how does the process look like for making an update like that? If you could
so
go into more
basically,
detail.
right now the process is once we get a medium-sized update down, we immediately start planning the next. The second, even before we released the update, I was already starting on the plans for the next one. Um, I don't want to say I'm the head of planning, but I'm the one that kind of writes it all down and makes sure it stays organized. Because it's more so a joint effort of what we want in the update. Um, but right now I've got a Google Doc that has quite literally everything with any sort of information I need for the Halloween update. It's got everything listed, everything's prepared. If any question were to arise, all that would need to be done would be to just look at this Google Doc and it would be here. So essentially spending a good day and a half, planning everything out, making sure everything's been fully thought of from start to finish. Granted, surprises will happen as things do.
Of course.
So they can delay and change a couple things, but regardless, the goal is to kind of work on it and make sure it's all planned out in one area. So the big step is planning it all out and making sure it's all here. So now the entire team is on in one single, they're all on the same page. We're all here. We're all looking at what we're doing. It's not like, we need to DM this person, wait for them to respond to figure out what needs to be worked on here. That doesn't happen anymore. Everything is here in one concise page.
Everyone's active.
And yeah, everybody's active. We're all multiple group chats, multiple test servers, multiple testers. Like everyone's involved. The testers are able to come in and help us out. The devs, we are kind of on the same page. We're working for the same thing. We have the same goals. Everyone's kind of on track to doing what they got to do.
With that being said, how's the morale? Are y'all just happier now? It seems like what you said, multiple group chats. I'm assuming that's just little subsections of different people working together on different things, and who needs to be involved with that. Like, it just
Mhm.
seems like you guys are ecstatic about all this.
Yeah, dude, everyone's hyped. We got a group chat for builders, so all the builders are on the same page building things. We've got the scripters all in the same group, communicating, documenting, discussing what they've done and what they're doing. So even then, a big difficult part is having the people who script all know exactly what's been changed, and that's something we really started working on here is discussing what we change and how we change it, and making sure everyone's on the same page as to why it happened. So we're excited there. Um, the test server, we call it the inner circle. All the testers are kind of aware of what's going on. Even then, we got want to kind of surprise the testers a bit. So some of the testers don't know everything, but yeah, I mean, everyone's happy and excited. I mean, everyone's developing at a consistent state, and I mean, everybody. It's no longer there should no longer be any issues with regarding a dev that doesn't want to work unless it's like their PC broke down or something, something like that where they physically can't work.
Gotcha.
The hype is real. Basically, to
That's
summarize
exciting.
my
Yeah,
yapping,
it's
like
very
it's
good.
hype is real.
Because you used to always hear drama and oh, this person isn't working, blah 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 blah. And
Yeah,
now that seems to be behind us, hopefully.
yeah, it's a pardon my tongue, that bull doesn't fly anymore. It's if it
Yeah.
happens, it's cut. That's as simple as that. No more BS.
Okay, okay. Sweet, 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 sweet. Um, let's get into a little bit of discussing some changes, hopefully. What are some things you guys look to improve on with DBOG with the new team? And this is going to be the last question about the team, I believe, or the last major one. So,
Hmm.
what is the team? How is the team mostly impacting how we're improving DBOG as compared to the way the old team was doing things? I guess
Hmm.
you've gone so deep in previous questions that that might just be a rinse and repeat, just more concise.
Yeah,
And there's a
I
part
mean,
2 to that question, which is talking about the game itself. What are things in DBOG itself that the team wants to improve on?
yes. So I mean, the team realistically, we want to improve it all, but realistically, that's unrealistic. To answer the first question, basically, I mean, the biggest thing is having everyone on the same page.
Yeah,
Um,
sounds
Now that
like it.
we're all together, there's no miscommunication and people doing what they want. It's everything has its purpose
You're
now.
a unit.
Yeah. And that's the primary thing. If it wasn't for how things transpired, this wouldn't be happening, I think. The conversations needed to be had and they were held so that, that really improved that. And I mean, there's a lot of things we want to improve. We want to improve visuals, which we started on, ergo the lighting changes.
Me and I will say me and Wallworks were just playing one night for a few hours, like for the first time in forever. Me and him were just playing the game for fun. And
Mhm.
that's one thing we noticed when we were taking pictures and like just posing or just doing stuff. The game looks incredible.
Yep. Before, and I'll go through this quickly so we can get back on track here. Before, the DBOG used the 2014 compatibility lighting, which is like Roblox's first lighting engine.
Mm-hmm.
And that's being deprecated, which, if some of you that don't know what that means, is it's no longer being supported by Roblox itself, which means that DBOG had to migrate no matter what. So we took it upon ourselves to, instead of migrating to like a version that doesn't really change too much, to the version that really improves games and gives it that futuristic lighting, where light can reflect, not reflect, reflect and refract properly off of materials, and everything just looks a little bit better, sharper, cleaner, crispier, alongside a better ish day and night cycle, adding atmosphere instead of fog, things of that
Yeah,
nature. And there's more to improve, mind you. And to continue the question with the visuals, I mean, some of those auras that we've had before don't look so great. But if you look at some of the quality now, for example, the Savior of Heaven form, that's a whole other
amazing.
story.
The aura is amazing on it.
If you look at Ancient State for Kanasan, it's a whole different story. It looks much better. If you look at Chaotic Kai, it's much better. The base aura has been improved. Um, so we're making changes in a lot of ways to a lot of the skills, and some of the new stuff you'll see in the Halloween update will show you that this is where kind of the skills are evolving to and going to, and you'll see what I mean once you guys are able to see either a sneak or a good trailer regarding it.
Mm-hmm.
Apart from that, we just want to improve as much as we can overall. So it's kind of just picking and choosing, right?
Yeah. At
There's
this
so
point,
much.
it really is picking and choosing because we're in the rebuilding phase.
Yeah. And we don't want to spend all our time rebuilding, because at that point
Yeah.
we
Then
wouldn't be going
it's
anywhere.
gonna take forever. Yeah, you're taking steps forward, but every time you do, it feels like you're taking a step backward because there's not really as much excitement.
Yeah.
And
So
we
essentially, it's like going through and picking and choosing what we want to improve. Like next update, you might see some of the other auras get improved. The
yeah,
update after that, you'll see, I don't know, maybe all the maps have atmosphere instead of fog. 'Cause I think some maps still have fog.
yeah.
Just things of that nature.
So what we're saying is we are focusing on everything all at once and building it all together. And we're
Hmm.
picking and choosing stuff. Like for example, if we're working on a big Halloween update, like yes, we're going to add so much cool stuff. Everything is going to be awesome and exciting, but also if your form still looks ugly or has a bug to it, that's going to be fixed eventually just when we get to it. But it's the pace of when we get to it is no longer in a year. It's every week stuff is fixing, right?
Yeah, if we see something, we fix it. Like that's as prominently as it's gonna be. Like if right now as we're working on the Halloween raid, we discovered like something was a little bit off with some of the clothes, and then we started kind of looking into it. And we were like, oh hey, wait, there's like a small error here. Hang on, let me just fix that real quick.
Yeah.
And then that evolved into 30 minutes to an hour of just fixing some of the clothes. Um, but it's necessary. I mean,
Oh
there's
yeah.
no reason to not go about it. It's just finding the moment to do it and just taking the opportunity when it presents itself, because they will inevitably they will.
Oh yeah. And it's just I really like that approach to things where we're not just fixing everything, but we're not just ignoring everything.
Mhm.
Because, you know, to circle back, when Super Saiyan God and Super Saiyan 4 come out, like the game is going to reach these huge peaks of hype and popularity because that's what everyone is looking forward to. That like that's the time where these big excitement moments like will actually matter. And that's also the time where these little improvements that are adding up day by day are also just going to matter. It's going to be a new peak for the game.
Mhm.
And like go back to what you said, how they're not coming with Buu Saga. I think that's a great thing because when we have something as hype as that, like adding Super Saiyan God, Super Saiyan 4, and the paths, everything like that, and whatever forms are coming with that, that should be its own big update because that genuinely is a huge update. The process of picking your path, getting the form for your path, mastering that form, looking at all these forms that you're going to be able to eventually get to in your path, and doing it for every single race that you have is huge.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so that should be its own update. I don't want that. If you added that with the Buu Saga, there would be too much. You
Oh yeah, it
know,
would take us too long,
it.
especially with how unique we want everything to feel. We
Yeah,
want I don't want it to be like how currently like you go Super Saiyan level 100 or 200 whatever it is and spend 5,000 zenny.
yeah.
And then Super Saiyan 2 it's like 10,000 zenny. Like that's a little boring. Like it's cool getting it and you're happy once you reach it,
Oh yeah.
but that fades away quickly. The experience with the past should be once you unlock it, you're like, all right, I did this, I grinded that, I got this, I'm ready. Let me do it now. And then you unlock it and you're like, holy crap,
You feel the
I
power.
did it. I did it. All right, I'm gonna take this thing to ranked right now and
Oh
start
yeah.
fighting with it.
And then you lose it in 2 seconds because you
Yep.
didn't master your form.
You forgot to master your form.
You golden Frieza.
Yep.
Yeah. Um. I one thing that just popped in my head. I don't want to waste time just doing little suggestions in this because this isn't the time really.
Yeah.
But it would be cool if when you unlocked a form, you just get an hour to play with it, like an in-game timer of an hour. Like not just being in the form for an hour. Like you have an hour, period. But in that
Hmm.
hour, your form mastery doesn't go down,
Okay.
and you
Okay.
can
That would be
master the
interesting.
form in that hour. Well, no, cause that would be OP because you master it way too quickly.
Yeah.
You get
But
you can call it like the
regardless,
rage boost or whatever of unlocking a form for the first time. Like I don't know, but that would just be cool. I feel like that would just be like a nice thing. You like yes, you just worked so hard for this form. I will give it to you for an hour, and then you have to master it.
I would say an hour, maybe like 3 times as long for the first time you ever use it, just so you can experience it for more than 10 seconds.
Yeah,
But no, yeah, I see where you're coming from. That makes sense.
something like that, because it's a little undermining. Like especially when mastery is gonna go up and up and up the farther we go. It's gonna be like, oh boy, I got my new form. Time to spend 2 hours mastering it. It's like it doesn't take 2 hours, but like if the current like mechanic for mastery stays the same,
Mhm.
who knows how long it'll take eventually. Like I'm sure that's
Yeah.
something you guys think about, but like
Yeah, I mean,
it's a little
if it
demeaning to think about like I can't wait to get Super Saiyan God, but then I'm not even gonna be able to use the form, you know?
and yeah, that's where it kind of stands as in, is mastery really the end? That raises the questions.
Yeah, I think that mastery when it was implemented, I feel like almost any mechanic like that was implemented before can genuinely be revisited now with the new team because you have so many different brains. I'm sure a lot of you guys are much more improved now than you were. Like I feel like you can revisit things like mastery or Kaioken or
Yeah,
Otherworld stuff, just little mechanics like that that
that's the thing.
were good, but now time has passed, maybe we can make them better.
Yeah, I mean, I'll be honest with you, we have.
Yeah.
We've already revisited and planned. Like we've
Oh
gotten
yeah.
to that stage where we're also planning and talking 24/7. That's just part of the hype where as we're working, we're thinking and getting our minds involved and actually, you know, thinking of what we want to see. And that's where conversations arise and plans begin as well. Not just for now, but for the future.
Oh
So when the
yeah.
time comes to fully put it on paper, we're like, hey, we discussed this a while back. You want to go back to that? And we're like, yeah, let's do it. And then boom, it's done.
Yeah.
There's a lot of stuff that's been reconsidered and in conversations over the past week. I've VC'd more with the dev team this past week than I have in maybe like a year from now. I'm not even
Yeah,
kidding with you.
it's crazy. Like I think that I think it's so amazing that you like this turnaround for the game for sure. Um the scene that popped in my head when I thought about that was like Goku fighting Beerus. Like he gets a good while to fight Beerus in God form, but then he loses it. And
Yeah,
bro didn't master his form, bro. His
yeah.
mastery ran out, you know?
And
But
then he
he
got really, really angry.
yeah, but he got
Went Super Saiyan.
he it, just to me like I feel like that really is a moment in the anime we can connect to as players, maybe to compare the gameplay experience. Whereas Goku achieved this new form, but it was in such a dire moment, he had to use it. He didn't have time to master it, but
Yeah.
he got enough time fighting as a Super Saiyan God. Like we saw the form for more than literally a combo string of DBOG, you know, like, and I feel like that's something like, okay, you got the new form for the first time. Let's go have fun. Let's do the thing. Let's quote unquote fight, you know, the boss or whatever. And after that, it's you calm down a little bit. The rush goes away. It's like, okay, I got my form. I'm gonna go to bed. Tomorrow it's time to master it. You
Yeah.
know? Something like that maybe.
Yeah. No, totally. I mean, I completely get where you're coming from. That's just something we'd have to bring to the team and see where we stand on that, you
Yeah,
know? I mean,
I think that a lot of people would appreciate that.
all right.
Um let me catch up here. Where are we? Where are we? Um
Um,
I think we can continue on. So like what are let's try to be a little specific here. Is there anything that we're looking to improve on with DBOG right now, the game itself? Like if we need a suggestion or like something to start off with, maybe something like PvP we can talk about.
okay. Yeah. Um, I'll start with saying DBOG is unbalanced right
Yeah.
now.
Oh yeah.
To put it lightly, it's very weirdly positioned because eh, the balancing was something that was never fully finished before
Yeah.
DBOG was forced to shut down because of a Roblox update that kind of messed with it, and then we had to drop the basics. That's when I came back essentially, and
Before you get into big detail, I want to say like it feels like the combat and the PvP and the balancing of all the moves, it feels like we're halfway through an update that we never got the second half to. Like,
that's exactly it.
yeah, it genuinely feel because with the stamina for it, like I'll ask about this later, but it feels like with how much stamina the moves take and how much stamina it takes for movement itself, and because the PvP right now is still on the foundation of slingshotting. I
Yeah.
hate that term. It makes me cringe. Um, that it feels like impossible as a melee guy to like, yeah, I can get a hold of someone and catch them, but like it just like I'll have like a third of my stamina bar by then. And like I was using Amazing Impact was a move that I've just been using for a long time because it's really cool.
Mhm.
I used the move and I just never realized that in the new update it took half my stamina bar to use. And it's
Yeah.
like I don't have no stamina. I have 500 agility. Like I feel like that's a decent amount. But like it's genuinely crazy like how much stamina some of these moves cost, and it feels like there was meant to be something else to go along with that that just never came to
Yeah.
make that
So
make sense. Yeah.
when the skills were being improved damage wise and everything was being kind of looked into, um, Saiyan Saga and Namek Saga skills were balanced properly, but everything after that wasn't. That being said, the balancing wasn't also perfect because unfortunately nobody was really testing them. So there's a lot of factors that went into the scaling of the abilities that just wasn't proper. And realistically, there's a lot of moves and skills in DBOG
There are
right now.
so many skills in DBOG.
So going through them is gonna take forever. But me and Sunny and a bunch of testers, we plan on just spending one day, maybe like 6 hours, 8 hours, trying every single skill from that list until we find a good spot for it.
Listen, man, all you need to do is get 26 people. That's 26 letters of the alphabet. You know what I'm saying? They all look
That
at their alphabet letter.
that's true. I could do that. I could do
Or
that.
you could concise, be smart about it. Get like 5 people or 4 people, and then like
Yeah,
you
the
get
the
A
plan is
through D.
the plan is bringing 4 or 5 people in the testers that we really
Yeah,
trust that play the game consistently enough to kind of know what the hell they're talking about.
yeah.
Um, so that's mainly where we're going. Well, we don't want to, just have a random tester who doesn't fight make decisions for
Hmm.
balancing because they just don't know.
You need
Um,
people who play the game so that these people have experience with getting jumped and just deciding, you know what, I'm gonna entertain this guy, I'll fight him, and then you run
mhm.
into these problems consistently in the combat and the PvP, and it's like you need that experience. You don't need the hypothetical experience. You know
Yeah,
how the
absolutely.
game is intended versus how the game is actually played, and
Yeah,
that's where
so that's
testers
why
come in.
I've got like one person who's really good at math. He'll kind of take care of like, just analyzing all the numbers, making sure they make sense.
That's me,
And
by the
then
way, guys. He's talking about me.
yeah, uh, uh, yeah. And then we got two people that play the game a lot and they know how to fight very well. They're some of the top players, if you want to call them that. They're going to help out. And then we just have, the casual players, the players that fight, but it's not their everyday thing. They see the struggle of a casual player.
Yeah, you need all the perspectives for sure.
And then you have me and Sunny who know what we're coding and can understand it code wise why it's doing what it does. That's the other aspect. How the move is intended to work versus how it actually ends up being used in game. Um, so you need different angles to kind of balance everything. So it's just going to be a matter of spending like 6 to 8 hours one night just going through every single one until we get it to a good spot. That involves damage, cost, startup, etc. Um, and I could just go ahead and go on to the other thing we've been thinking about. When DBOG was in its early days, we were, essentially levels mattered. In the early days, levels mattered more than stats, and it became to a point where, a level 20 would dominate a level 1 with no stat difference. So we changed it to where it was levels matter less than stats. And it's never really been properly touched, fixed, or configured or updated.
it's
So
it's a it's very much a context thing, you know. Someone who's
yeah,
level 5 is gonna dominate a guy who's level 1, but someone who's level 505 versus a level 500, there's like no difference, you know.
yeah,
And that's like there's context there, and that's not exactly what we're talking about here, but it's just an
it's a
example how
decent,
context matters.
yeah, it's a decent example. And back then, when that change was kind of first introduced, max level was 100. We weren't thinking of, okay, well, what about a level 500 versus a level 400? That wasn't the thought. Right now, the level difference is really good. Right now, if you are level 500 with no stats and I'm level 100 with no stats, I can beat you. No problem. And I think that's pretty cool because you can. Now, granted, people are going to have stats. That's why we're thinking of making levels kind of keep the same worth of how much they, affect the player and making it so stats affect the player a lot less because right now the level is at a good point. Right now it's just what stats kind of do.
We're feeling like stats affect the output too much.
Correct. Yeah. Right now, a level 500 with 2K stats who, has never done Gravity Chamber, he's never done Time Chamber, he never wished on Shenron, never got Purunga traits, never did Grand Kai. He's got around 2,400, maybe 2,600 now with the new max total, stat points, versus a player who's done every single thing in Granded Grand Kai every single day for an entire year, every
All
12 hours.
15 of you.
Yeah, well, more like 20 to 30. There's
Yeah,
been a lot more
there's a few
people.
people who do it, yeah, who did it.
Um, those people have like 4,000, almost 5,000 stats.
Which is ridiculous.
They're essentially compare them, like, let's say right now with stats, a level 500 is equal to like a level 750. A guy with like 4,000 stats, they're equal to like a level 1,200 or so. Like, it's a crazy, it's an incomparable difference. It's twice as strong. A level 500 who's done nothing is 2 times weaker than a level 500 who's done everything.
Mm-hmm.
And that is a crazy boost.
It's criminal.
It being 2 times stronger is, there's no point being, one punch is equal to 2 punches. You throw 20, that equals 40,
Mm-hmm.
it adds up.
I
So
hit you
finding
with
a good
arm
way for the
crash that takes
players
half
that,
your HP. If I'm level 4000, my arm crash is one-shotting your ass.
yeah, I think trying to think of the number. If you have like 1,000 output and I have like 4,000 or 3,000 physical, one arm crash will kill you in one shot. People have that.
Yeah.
And that's without even being transformed and, taking,
Some
let's say
people
you're
just
in
have
base and
that period because they're
yeah,
psychopaths
yeah,
who only do
exactly.
melee.
Exactly. So that's kind of the how do we make it so that the people who did grind still have a bonus,
Yeah.
but it isn't as strong as 2 times. That's
That's the thing,
absurd.
yeah, because like I have two perspectives on it. It's like it's so stupid how people who did Grand Kai every day are so much stronger because like nobody wanted to do that. Nobody wanted to play. No, like nobody had the motivation to get on. Like who cares about the one stat point a day for 2 years or however long while the game was like kind of dead. And it's
Mhm.
like yes, that's I stand with that side, but it's also like these people did show that dedication. They did show that it shouldn't just be taken from them,
Mhm.
but there should be they should have a compensation for whatever change is coming because a change needs to happen. I think with
Yeah.
the stats right now, a change needs to happen. And I've been saying this for a really long time and people just didn't believe me because the game I guess wasn't in that state or people were being childish or whatever. Nowadays I think more people can see it where because we're actually in the scenario where the levels are starting to matter like less and less and the stats matter more and more now and it's genuinely frustrating like seeing a guy with like 5k key damage and nothing else and he gets me in one knockback combo because he happens to be like really good at sleeing and his internet's working and he got the RNG coin flip and the Roblox servers were good to him that day.
Mhm.
He gets the knockback and I'm all of a sudden I'm dead
Yep.
from two moves. And it's like, well, that's not fun. Like the
Yeah.
DBOG PvP, I think to a lot of people, if we were to ask a wide array of people, like for example, 20,000 people aren't consistently playing DBOG, but my video on an update is about to hit around 20,000 views. If we were to ask all 20,000 of those people, like, do you like PvP and DBOG? I genuinely believe that 90% of them will say no. And it's like if I put a community post or like we ask the DBOG Discord server, do you like PvP? I feel like it's gonna be more like 50% will be like, yeah, I do. But that's just because it's like, well, yeah, you're like the few hundred people who try hard at it and are good at it, and so that's why you like it. But if it never happened and PvP was just different, you'd probably like this different version of it more.
Yeah, and that brings like the slaying mechanic. A
Yeah.
lot of people like it, a lot of people hate
Yeah.
it.
I
It's two sides to the coin. I'm on the side where I've never been a fan of it. That's why I've
I
always used a key build.
I don't love it. No, it's
But
like maybe there's a skeleton of something there, but it's just like no.
I understand why it's fun because it's really fast paced and you have to
Yeah.
practice it. In my eyes, I don't want to get rid of it. It'd be a dumb decision to get rid of such a really fun, unique mechanic that DBOG has, but there needs to be a way to fight it. Another technique another player made, or another technique that you can do
That's what
that
I
can
was thinking.
basically
Yeah,
fight just like Sling does. So you can either so
different
instead of
fighting, not fighting styles because that is a thing in DBOG, but just like a different way of playing the game. Because if someone runs at you slingshotting, there's nothing you have to fight fire with fire because there's
yeah,
no
right now it's either
alternative.
Sling v Sling, key build v Sing, or key build versus key build.
Yeah.
Those are the things, and I think making it so that Sling is a tool rather than like an absolute
Yes.
necessity to win is very
Yes.
important. Now, finding what that would involve a lot of tinkering around, and something that wouldn't realistically be touched until after Buu Saga when we have spare time
Yeah.
to tinker around and then revert back if it's not good,
Yeah.
or roll it out for a week if nobody likes it, revert back. That's the type of stuff that would be in discussions for when this content's out. All right, let's analyze what's wrong with it and how it could be made better. Um,
I think that is a good idea because I think right now in the rebuilding phase of DBOG we don't want to take risks. I feel like it's smarter to let's give the people what they want. Let's say like the past week has been like the firing gun, the warning shot, like hey, we're back, we're here. Now it's time to prove that we're here. We drop a huge Halloween update. We drop a huge Buu Saga update. And then after that, the core of the game is fine-ish right now. Like it's passable. Like people are playing the game, it's playable. There's a lot of problems though. So
mhm.
I think after we did the warning shot, we need to go full throttle with this update or the next two big updates that we have planned, which like you said, Halloween and Buu Saga. And then after that being like, okay, let's get the core of the game down. Let's find who DBOG is as a person, you know? Like DBOG
Yeah,
needs to
like
go to therapy after that.
yeah, and I really analyze it because
And
realistically, in my
yeah,
eyes, if I went ahead into the main community server, the Discord, and I pinged everyone and I asked, "Do you like Sling or do you not like Sling?" It would either be a 50-50 or it'd be like a 60-40% vote.
yeah. And
Sixty
it's too
forty is a much.
controversial.
Yeah, if I get rid of it, that's 40% of the players who dislike it.
Yeah.
If
And
for some reason I did that vote and I got like 999 votes yes and one vote no, then I mean,
then
all
yeah, we
right,
then fuck that guy. Like
yeah, either get good or get out.
yeah, I feel like that is the thing like people who like Sling, I think like let's say it is 50-50. Then you'd be like, "Oh, well we can't remove it then." But then what about the other 50? Like I feel like that's something that we're not discussing. Like there's 50% of people who are playing the game that are avoiding playing the game more because of how the PvP is.
Yeah.
And it's like that sucks. That's bad. That's bad for business. That's less competition for the slingshotters, for the people who like PvP. You know, that's less competition for you guys. That's less people. That's less fun. That's less friends. And at the end of the day, it's gonna mean less clans for when that stuff eventually gets going. Less, because those are gonna be mechanics in the future, I believe, right?
Mhm.
Stuff
Yeah,
like
yeah.
that. And so it's just gonna be it's bad for business. It's bad for the player base. It's bad for the community. So we need to find something that's going to satisfy everybody, and I'm hoping that we do a update where we add a new mechanic or like a new way to fight Sling or a new just fighting style in general or a change to Sling or just whatever the hell it is, and we roll it
Yeah.
out, and like people are going to complain day one, but roll it out for a week and we'll see like not just the people who were like complaining because all of a sudden they're bad at the game and losing to their friends that they were better than or losing and ranked more, because those aren't genuine opinions. Those are selfish opinions.
No, yeah, absolutely. And
we,
I don't want to remove
those people
Sling, but
matter, of course, because we don't want to make them unhappy, but those opinions are
everyone's opinion is valid at that point,
yeah.
especially if it's 50-50. Remove Sling or no. 50 says yes, 50 says no. All right, well, I can't remove Sling, so what can I do to the other 50 that wanted it gone?
Mm-hmm.
That's just the fine line of finding a good thing for both sides. I think in my head, the best thing that could be offered would be to find an alternative for people who don't like Sling.
Yeah, absolutely.
Um,
An alternative
and
that isn't don't play the game, because right
yeah,
now that is the alternative.
because right now, what makes Slingshot OP and how I see it is the fact that once you're hit once, you can kind of repeat it to where if I snap vanish, and you sling in before I even have time to react or using the evasive mechanic, I've wasted one defense bar with little to no reason.
Mm-hmm.
How can we make that better? How can we make that better for the person who evaded? That's the discussion that should be held as oh, what if when you evasive, you have higher iframes and have an opportunity to counterattack? Then it'd be a counterattack battle where you could still sling, but
Yeah.
now it's not so, you teleport away and to dodge your attack instead of immediately getting hit again, you have opportunity to fight back properly. It's things like that need to be discussed. And if we give them too many iframes, is it too OP? Will it completely destroy, slingshot, etc.? It's just a lot, finding a good balance, trying it out. Doesn't work? Cool. Revert. Move on.
Mm-hmm.
And that's
Go
go
on.
ahead. Yeah, you can go ahead.
I was gonna say, like, a whole other thing with it too is like when you're slingshotting, like, if there's not much room to breathe, and some people think that's cool. I do like. I was a Final Stand player, and a lot of people weren't super big into like the style of Final Stand, I guess, that the best players were doing, which I guess can be seen as kind of ironic if like a slingshot player could have this a similar perspective, I guess. But with Final Stand, it wasn't necessarily just like something in the game we were abusing. It was just more so the
Mhm.
level that we were at, I suppose. But with
Yeah.
that PvP style was actually really fast paced,
Mhm.
and I am a fan of fast paced PvP. But I also think that there needs to be time for people to charge. There needs to be time for people to, get off their ability or whatever it is, right? Like,
I mean, yeah,
for
there's mechanics that are underused because
yeah.
slingshot is so strong. Like when you hit a person, you get keyback, like that's
Mm-hmm.
Yardyard's whole thing, and they just don't have the opportunity to consistently hit people unless it's a stamina break. Where
Yeah.
can we go to make it so that their ability is more viable without just making it so that every single punch they get like 20%? At that point, it's too strong.
What one comparison I can make right now while I have it is in Final Stand, there was no charging. The downtime was more so like two people moving still, so they wouldn't get caught by a move, but kind of feeling each other out, and like trying to see like, okay, if I go for this move, is this guy gonna counter me? Is this guy gonna block me? Am I gonna get cooked? Or like, is this a good opportune time to attack? And what can I do to distract him before my attack? That's sort of the downtime that Final Stand had. In DBOG, I feel like, oh shit, I almost lost it. Like in Final Stand, your key bar was like the limit of your fight, right? Like there was no
Mhm.
charging, there was no break. That was my point with that. And so when you ran out of key, you were dead. In DBOG, it's almost like you run out of defense and you're dead a little bit
Yeah,
because of how much
basically it.
damage people are doing. And
Yeah.
it sucks for, like you said, the yard rats. Like they just don't get they don't get to use their ability. One mechanic that this is something that people don't talk about enough, but I really want to bring this up while we have time because we're approaching an hour. I want to get this done soon. But one thing that's always on my mind nowadays is like the most basic mechanic you can really think of, like that isn't used at all because of Sling, and it really sucks for the devs. Animations, period. The fighting styles, there's a lot of work put in to make those animations look good, and nobody sees them because everybody is vanishing instantly. And another thing with like certain skills, like so many skills are just not being used because they don't help your cause in a sling fight. And that to me sucks because one innovation in the last year that I've seen with Roblox games, because I'm not a avid Roblox player, but the Holy Grail 75, huge YouTuber, like how many subs do you have at this point? 800K, something like that, pushing on it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like this guy, he plays these games, he is in these, and he's a good friend of mine, so I'll check out his videos every once in a while. And these games that these modern games that are blowing up with 15K, 20K people, I'm not going to talk about what kind of game they are because DBOG is clearly different to that, and I think
Mhm.
that's what makes it special and unique, and I like this type of game over those type of games, which is why I'm a DBOG YouTuber and not like a Realm, what is it, Realm Rampage or whatever, or a Saitama
Yeah.
Battleground. Strongest
They're
battleground.
called battleground
Yeah,
games.
battleground games.
Simple,
Yeah.
simple games that have fun combat, and
Yes.
that's all that is. Like
Yes. And
that's
I love that, and I love the combat in those games. I think DBOG could favor from taking not the entire combat from that, but there's certain things like the animations in those games are I'm not going to curse. Amazing. Freaking amazing. Like they are stunning. Certain things like I saw in Realm Rampage, there's the Ultra Instinct Kamehameha where Goku flips around and then does a flip and fires the beam. Incredible. But it would never work in DBOG. And it's
you
just
know.
like that sucks to me that that would never work in DBOG because I think that in DBOG style it could look so beautiful if it were to work.
It's just DBOG is too complex for
Yes.
that to work.
There's
The
so
animations
much more
look good in
fighting
battleground games
mechanics.
because there's so much less to focus on. All
It's
they
very
gotta focus
simple.
on over there is combat, good camera work, good
Yeah.
sound effect work, and good effects work. Like
Mhm.
that's really all it is. Granted, they could do extra stuff like ranked, like
Yes.
terrain destruction, how some games do it. There's stuff like that.
Mhm.
But that's the thing. It's such a simple concept where they could build and make stuff really, really good because they have so little.
Yeah.
Um, I like battlegrounds games for the fact that they're very simple. They're very easy.
Mhm.
You go in, you fight, and that's it. You hop off. Like it's a good time waster.
Yes.
I prefer playing DBOG because it's more complex. It's more stuff for me to
There's
do
more
as a whole. It's an
rewarding.
actual RPG rather than a
Mhm.
battleground.
It's very rewarding, I
So
feel.
it's a per taste. Like if you really sit here and analyze what makes those battleground games really fun, it's number one, every single movement you make, the camera is affected by it. Every
Yes.
step you take, the camera wobbles. Every time you punch, the camera moves along with you. That's something that is harder to do with something like DBOG because you throw out like 300 punches in the
Yeah.
span of like a
A
minute.
second, yeah. Literally.
You literally fly around 200 studs worth of space, whereas in a battleground games, you maybe dash 20 to 30 studs worth of distance.
Yeah.
There's a different distance scaling.
Oh
There's
yeah.
flight. When you involve flight in a fight or in a game,
Oh
maps are a lot
yeah.
harder to do because you have to make a massive.
Mhm.
That's the one thing I've struggled with my game is can I make the map look really good, but also not bad with the flight, and it's just a really hard balance to find. You got to work with what you got. If I don't make the map huge, it's not going to be open enough for these big open fights where people are in the air, flying around, tossing and turning. Finding a good solid point. But if you look at battleground games, then you have these effects that happen on every single trigger and keyframe. The cutscene sends you up, down, left, right. You see all the angles. The sound effects they play exactly when they need to happen, and they're satisfying.
Yeah.
And that's one thing that a lot of games don't do. Specifically, DBOG doesn't do. They don't take advantage of the fact that sounds are imperative to game design.
Mhm.
They have proper like punches. Each punch has a unique sound that's directly influenced by what combo string you're using. But DBOG doesn't have that luxury because there's so much to do. You know.
I think that's one reason why like an in combat feature is good for DBOG. Like it makes world flying good because you're still fast, but as soon as you get hit by something, you're in combat, you're all of a sudden slower. Maybe we look into that more with DBOG. Maybe the in combat thing can be adjusted a little bit. Maybe make
Yeah.
people even slower to give
No,
like
they got really slow. I think, in my opinion.
you think so? Because I feel like with slinging like that's one thing that you were talking about where like you vanish and then all of a sudden they're already there and there's not much time to counter because I think one problem that I have with Sling is like there are literally counters in the game to it called counters, like the
Mhm.
moves counters. And it's like I will vanish and someone will be flying towards me and go to hit me. But it just so happened that when they click their button, because they're so fast, it's all muscle memory. When
Mhm.
they punch when they go to punch me, it just doesn't reach me, and therefore my counter doesn't activate and doesn't hit them. And then I'm left in the open, and then they just hit me anyway afterwards, and I get punished like because the game is just more so I'm doing this one combo string.
Yeah, and that's why I suggested like maybe like increasing the iframes after vanishing because that's essentially the defense bar is more so getting away from something. Like how evasives have pretty decent iframe. The only issue is that they consume a lot of defense, and they have an extra effect which changes how the fight kind of plays out. But once you use two of those, your defense is out.
Mm-hmm.
How could you make the vanish better? Maybe adding like a point 0.2 more seconds of iframe, so by the time that player connects, you can pop out your counter. You could either punch them back because they punch too quick, or they punch too slow, so you have enough time to back up and throw a blast out. That's something that can be tinkered around with, and if it doesn't work, it gets removed.
Yeah,
Um,
it definitely feels like there's certain issues with frames because, like I said, it happens to me so much, and I notice it where like I'll vanish, someone's coming to me, and I'm like, okay, this is where I'm gonna catch them with my move or my perfect block or my counter, and it just doesn't work out because of how Sling is.
yeah,
And I feel like there's too much of like people being so fast that it's hard to control what you're actually doing, and you're more so just doing this movement that's constantly pushing you forward at the same rate mostly, and it's just hard to really know, like, it's not a mental thing, it's just how the game and the mechanic is, where it's hard to know which hit is actually going to hit you or not. It's not something that the guy's thinking about, like, oh, I'm going to fake him out this time. Like, some people
hmm
will think about that with other mechanics such as like rush canceling, but to me it's just like I get punished for trying to counter the only like fighting style in the game, and it sucks.
yeah, absolutely. So it's realistically finding that one fix that makes it better.
Yeah,
Like
it's the bane of DBOG. Like, what is
before
this thing?
before people nerfed Sling, in my opinion, Sling wasn't the problem. It was the fact that everything else needed to be better. So we're gonna experiment in the future with some stuff like the iframe thing. We're gonna see how that works out. If it doesn't
Hmm.
work out, it doesn't work out. Simple as that.
It's
You'll
good that this is on your radar, I think.
if looking at how often people can evasive, is the problem not just the fact that once I get hit, I can immediately snap vanish. Maybe the change needs to be where if I use a snap vanish, it goes on a slightly bigger cooldown. Or if I use an evasive, there's a cooldown before I could use another evasive. How can I make that so I can't spam evasive? So, instead of staying 24/7, you can also actually land full combos mid fight. If
Hmm.
let's say I snap vanish and then you manage to hit me again because you outsmarted me, you can actually land an actual super inside your skill set rather than just, not. Because right now the fight is just hit, punch, you snap vanish, hit, punch, you snap vanish, hit, punch, you snap vanish, hit, punch, you snap vanish.
Yeah,
Yeah, it repeats.
and I feel like that's certainly basic combat in Dragon Ball games should never be for melee users. It should be for both, and then the supers complement that, I feel.
Yeah, the supers are essentially combos. They're extenders. They add on to the
Yes.
fight. And that's one of the biggest complaints I've heard from non-sling users that are forced to sling is they don't like having to go in, punch once, and leave again. They feel like it's boring, it's repetitive.
It is very repetitive
Some
for me,
people
yeah.
like it because it feels fast, but other people don't like it because it's boring. And to me, that's why I don't like sling because I just find it boring. I
Yeah.
don't like going in, hitting once, and backing up.
I don't like how brainless it is. Like, I can turn my brain off and play DBOG, and
It
I don't like that
if
in
I've
a
really sat here and
PvP
made a
game.
if I sat here and slung once and I added to a macro so I could just hold it on my mouse and I could repeat it because it's so mindless, I could just turn it on and I would win. I would just have my keybind over F, so I let go of my macro and I press F, and then boom, I fight. Setting up a macro for Sling isn't hard. It really isn't. Like if
It's
someone was
crazy.
really intent on doing it, they would be OP because they'd have milliseconds worth of accurate Sling time.
It's absolutely crazy, I think. Like, it, to me, I just, my problem with it is I feel like it's not as skill based as people think, and there's a lot to it that's behind the scenes that people are thinking like, oh, because I was practicing or doing it, I'm getting better. And like, I'm not saying that there's no skill to it. You definitely do have to get it down. But all I'm saying is I literally went to bed one night thinking about it, and I woke up and I had it down. That's all
Yeah,
it is. Like, it
it's a
it's
it's more
muscle
a learning
memory.
curve than it is a
Yeah.
skill-based thing. Like once you get the learning curve, the most skill it is muscle memory and being able to tap properly.
And then
And
there's the debate is if muscle memory is even skill in the first place.
yeah, at that point it's like how quickly can I tap X after my punch? How quickly can I get that mini skill down? Maybe that's skill to some people. To me, that's just practice and getting better at using your keyboard.
Yeah,
um,
it's definitely. I feel like DBOG needs more active thinking, which I maybe that is the bane of DBOG players. That I'm being mean, but like maybe some people in that 50%. I'm not saying everybody likes Sling because they're good at it and they don't want to be bad at the game. I'm not saying that. I'm
yeah, same here. Like I don't want this to come off as in, screw Sling, because I like Sling. I like the concept of it. I like the fact that it's fast. I don't like
yes.
doing it because to me it's boring.
Yes, I think it goes both ways too because there's people who don't like Sing and they don't like it because they're bad at it and they want to be
No,
better
for
at the
sure.
game. And it definitely goes
Absolutely.
both ways. I'm acknowledging that. I do think though that like adding more curriculum thinking to the game is going to be a good thing because like I said in Final Stand, I don't like bringing up other games to compare it, but like I do think like it's healthy sometimes. Final Stand, I enjoy like not everybody enjoyed PvP in that game, whatnot. I think that there was a lot of perspective with that game in PvP, but for me, one reason I loved it so much is because in the high tier of play in Final Stand, there was a lot of thinking involved. There was a lot of strategy involved. There was different play styles that I feel like you could play any playstyle and pit it against any playstyle, and the fight would still work. In DBOG, it simply doesn't work because one playstyle trumps everything, basically.
Yeah,
Other
for
than
sure.
like key versus melee, like that, there's like two playstyles there. But again, to me, basic combat, in my opinion, should be used by everybody. Like there should be
Mhm.
playstyles that people try to avoid that because they're better at sniping. You know, their moveset is set for I'm gonna snipe you when you're trying to run at me, or when the moment you stand still, I'm gonna snipe you. Or I'm gonna
Yeah,
bait
for
you
sure.
into going for a counter, and then I'm gonna snipe you with my death beam. Like I feel like that should be a style in the game, and that's fine. But the basic melee should be complementing your style. Basic melee shouldn't be a style. like it
Yeah,
basic melee should be the game. That's why we put so much effort into hundreds of fighting styles, so many combo strings, animations,
that's true. Yeah, you don't see any because it's
and you
just
don't
what's
see any of
the
them.
what's the fastest fighting style so I can punch and drain this guy's defense? Because realistically, that's what it is.
Hmm.
A lot of people don't like to say it, but in its core essence, that's why Sling is as effective as it is because it abuses the defense system that's currently in.
Hmm.
Um, some people like to admit it, some people are going to deny it. 100%. I can already see and feel people are like, "Oh, he's wrong about that." I might be wrong, but from a statistical and standpoint, and seeing how things are set up and coded, and actually analyzing the gameplay to improve it, the the killer is the defense. Like that's like once your defense is gone, I win. That's the fight.
Hmm.
And how can I maintain your defense to either be low or stamina break you to kill you? Like that's what it is. Like that's the end all be all, and it should still remain that way, but it's almost abusing the mechanic.
Yeah.
And I use abuse lightly in a sense of you're not it's intended for you to drain their stamina, but at the same time to punch drain in a matter of 10 seconds to deplete someone, that's where it gets tricky, and then it becomes a who is faster, who has the better stat to do this faster.
Hmm.
That's where it complicates itself, and it derives so far away from what it truly is to what it isn't. Because slingshot, or the act of it, is the propulsion of you punching towards the enemy. That's what a slingshot is. That's the slingshot mechanic in any Dragon Ball game you would ever play. Moving forward on punch is a slingshot because you're slinging yourself forward with the momentum of your fist. It's called sling because in the game it's the primary reason for people to fight. You're propelling yourself to the opponent repeatedly, so you're slinging around the opponent, as in you're quite literally a sling being flipped around. If you want to like find a GIF visual for the audience of like a guy throwing a sling, that's kind of what it is. Um, but yeah, I mean, it's going to be a long process, and it's nothing that'll come soon. But it's a lot of stuff that has to be considered at some point to make the game feel better, especially when rank and tournaments come back and all that stuff.
Hmm. Because PvP, like it or not, is a core thing in it's Dragon Ball Z game, bro. Like, do you think Goku wanted the Saiyans to arrive on his planet and fuck him up? No. You think I want that guy who attacked me because I'm a YouTuber to attack me? No. But I
Bobby,
do.
I thought you were gonna curse there, Bobby.
Huh?
I thought you were gonna curse there, bro.
I wasn't gonna curse there. I'm gonna curse now.
Okay, got it. Go ahead.
Yeah. It's just like it's a PvP game, man. Like that's what it is. PvP is gonna reward you in the game, and
Yeah, for
besides,
sure.
I like it or not, with the current AI, being better at PvP, you're better at fighting the AI right now too. That's just how it is, and I think that we could go on forever talking about PvP, but at the end of the day, I think that actions are gonna help more right now. Like you guys already have the ideas. Let's put it into play, and we're gonna put it into play hopefully when the Buu Saga update drops after that, which we said 2 to 4 months is the time frame for that. And so, um, that I think is a good way to leave the PvP section of the video.
Yeah.
You know, the 25-minute, 30-minute long PvP section, because I PvP is so important. You have to talk about it for that long.
We could spend another 2-3
And you
hours
could
talking
spend
about it if we
another.
really sat
We
here.
really could, yeah. And it's just that is for the development team to talk about, not for this interview. So let's see here. So those are the changes to PvP we're looking forward to. Is we're analyzing Slingshot and how it affects the other mechanics. And then another thing was the stats and leveling thing is a big part of that.
Yeah.
Where using skills, etc., is kind of hard right now with how much stamina certain ones take. And so the stats are going to be adjusted a little bit. The levels are going to be adjusted. And you mentioned to me that's also going to affect NPCs. So NPCs actually have levels and stats associated to them already. And so any changes made to player stats will automatically transfer over to NPCs. So, for example, if everyone's damage was to all of a sudden drop, it wouldn't matter necessarily because the NPC's damage would also be dropping.
Yeah.
And it would just be a balance thing on how much your stats affect how much damage output you're doing and how much your level is affecting how much damage output you're doing. And not just damage. That's just an example. Health, stamina, etc.
Yeah. And the primary core of that is to bring the gap between skill-based matchmaking versus stat-based matchmaking closer together, rather than just getting rid of stats overall. Because realistically, we could just get rid of stats, but that nobody would like that. I
That would be
wouldn't like that.
horrible, yeah.
It would be a horrible idea.
Builds are a good thing. It adds.
That's why I like builds,
Yeah.
And it's just
Adds
how do we make it
personality.
so that a build makes a difference, but not enough to dominate, So that's something we've been kind of going over. And yeah, no, stats NPCs would be influenced and become weaker and easier to manage just because of the simple fact that if we nerf how stats affect them, or everybody as a whole, it would affect them as well. So it's not just you. The NPCs would also become easier in a sense.
I look at Xenoverse as an amazing example. Not everyone loves the gameplay of Xenoverse, but I think it's an amazing example of finding the balance where every player in Xenoverse is using basic combat, and the stat builds in Xenoverse don't matter that much. But it can, depending on how you play, and it matters enough to where a guy with full ki versus a guy with full melee are fighting differently, but they're still both participating together, and fights don't change too much based on what build the guy you're fighting has.
Yeah, for sure.
And I think Xenoverse is a game that mastered that idea of stats, because I think the stats in Xenoverse and how they affect your player are very effective. So yeah, that's what we're looking at with PvP, is we're analyzing stats and leveling. You guys are analyzing moves and trying to find the balance between how much stamina they're taking. Maybe you're gonna give us more stamina with the stats update or something, or you're just gonna nerf how much stamina they drain. Period. You're gonna adjust their damage levels, maybe, and then what was the other thing? I forgot.
Oh, jeez, Buu Saga, Halloween.
We're
looking at everything.
Yeah, those are that's the PvP stuff. Um, mostly just stats, balancing, and then analyzing the core gameplay mechanics like sling, vanishing, defense in general, blah, yada
Yeah.
yada, stuff like that. So, with that being said, this I have one idea that I saw that I've been thinking of for a while that I wanted
Mhm.
to ask about and see what if the devs have discussed this or not. Could we see a login system and maybe like a time bait like a playtime rewards thing?
Oh yeah, that'd be like super easy to code actually. Like a daily reward, you come back, you get like Zenny, and then increases per day you actively do it.
Yes, the one comment I saw it as like a monthly thing. So like you would log in and your month would start, your 30 days of DBOG would start. And
Mm.
obviously if you were to not log in for a day, it would cancel your streak.
Okay,
But
okay.
the idea was that you go, let's say day 1 you get 500 Zenny, you know. Day 2 you get 10k XP. Day 3 you get 600 Zenny. But it'll go on. So day 10 or day 5, day 10, day 15, day 20, there's going to be these bigger bonuses. Maybe day 5 you get a Dragon Ball that you don't have, guaranteed, you know? Let's
Yeah.
say the idea that he had, and I don't know if this is something like I think this is a good idea, but not how he said it, but or how he meant, but maybe the concept of it. So what this comment said was on day 30 or so, there's like a token there's a chance to get a token for like a game pass, like time chamber or gravity room, that is giving people who have the money to spend an advantage versus players who don't have the money to spend. And so like a way to obtain that, you know, and I know that you can access it with Zenny. His complaint was that like it takes so much Zenny to access it that it's kind of not like it's like demeaning, it's like demotivating to look at that big number and be like, wow, I have to do all this for just, you know, one session. But I think what I said to counter his point was if we were to do the login system and that were to be like how it was done, you would get so much Zenny from that month of logging in that you'd be able to then afford those things and you wouldn't need the game pass, for example, if that makes
Okay.
sense. And I think I really do think that DBOG should implement a login system and a time-based reward system for playing the game. So for example, other games, you know, that have like those like spin the wheel type thing, and they give you like a free key to open the chest to spin the wheel after you're like playing
Yeah.
for 5 minutes, something like that. Like let's say you play for 5 minutes, the game throws you 100 zenny, you know, and I don't want it to just become an AFK grind. So if there was a way to detect movement or playing, I think that that'd be kind of cool. But like again, macros exist.
Yeah.
So just
I mean,
like
realistically, if a person decides
minor,
to AFK, that's what they want to do. But like at the same time,
mhm.
it'd just be like no reward would be so great that, you could get like a free level up from just
Yes,
AFKing.
yeah, I agree with that. I think that if we were, that's why I was saying like to do time based rewards. So let's say you play the game for 10 minutes, 30 minutes, and then an hour, and that's all you'd get for that day, right? And then it would reset the next day. So that way, someone's AF can't just sit there AFK 24/7 and just be farming Zenny. You know, it would be something like, all right, you play the game for an hour a day, we're gonna fucking reward you for it, right? And sure, you could AFK for that time, or you could keep the grind up. So let's say like you're in for 10 minutes, the game's gonna give you 1,000 zenny, whatever, 3k zenny, something like that. You play the game for 30 minutes, the game's gonna give you a third of your XP bar, something like that, fifth of your
Yeah.
XP bar, something like that, right? You play the game for an hour, you're gonna get 5k, 10k zenny something, and another third, fifth of your XP bar, whatever. And then
Yeah.
that just daily, like not every hour, right? Something like that daily though. And then with the login system, small rewards until you build up to a big day, like day 5, day 10, day 15, day 20, 25, and then it would end at 30. And 30 would be a big reward.
Yeah.
Massive reward. And
Like that wouldn't be hard to implement.
I don't think it would be hard to implement. It would just be like an idea of, would DBOG do this? Would this fit DBOG? And I really do think that it would. And I think it would be healthy for the game because it would then, the player count would go up.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, there's a lot of things that could be added. You know, right now, kind of where it stands for almost any suggestion or idea is less of a matter of how and what, and more a matter of when.
When, yeah. Because you have so much on your plate right now.
Yeah, like that's the biggest question. Like, when do we want to do this stuff? Oh well.
That's when I
Uh,
see like some people will come. I saw a comment that was like, "Are we gonna see God of Destruction moves?" I'm like, I can forward that. I can like because they said a good idea was like the spirit force spirit fission, so that way you can remove a fusion, or
yeah.
like remove an absorption from someone. I'm like, that's a good idea, but
But then you
if I
realize,
just text Gray like, "Hey, can you add this?" He'd be like, "Yeah, bet." Like that wouldn't do anything because it would be added in like a few months when they get the time to do that.
yeah, and then it's like, well, you want us to add like UI, but we haven't even fought Boo yet, you
Yeah,
know? There's a time and place. Like,
there's timing and stuff to it, and it's
don't
like,
get me wrong, I'd love to go Super Saiyan God. It's my favorite form, but like,
mm-hmm,
we're not there.
we're not
It's
there
not
yet.
ready.
Yeah, I don't think we should be fighting Majin Buu in Super Saiyan 4. Like I
Yeah,
doesn't make doesn't quite make sense.
I don't think I should be fighting, uh who should I put? I don't think I should be fighting Jiren as a Super Saiyan 2, like that's
Mm-hmm.
it's kind of the same thing. Right now it's more of a debate because we're Super Saiyan 3, this and that. But it's more so like, well, compare it to it's not apples to oranges, it's just there's so much to really think about and how we want to go about things because we also can't be, irresponsible with the updates. We can't
Yeah.
just say, you know what, I want to do this today. I want to do that today. Because at that point, we're losing sight of what we need to do, of what people as a majority want to see. If I ask people right now, what update do you guys want? The majority will say Buu Saga because it's been so long. Frankly, ignoring that would be completely unwise. And
Mm-hmm.
in my head, it'd be stupid. Why would we ignore that fact that we can do this
The
and we've already proven ourselves to be capable of it?
the two big things are Buu Saga and then there's God and 4, and it's like I feel like the timing added up perfectly. That like it's Halloween. We can get this Halloween stuff out of the way, and it's gonna be really fun, and it's gonna be an example of this new dev team. And then we can throw it all to Buu Saga, and then right after that, then that's when it makes sense to add the paths update. Is after Buu Saga because Buu Saga is the last big quote unquote DBOG like content update where that we as we know it. It's not the last update. I don't want anyone to think that it's the last update of how we know updates are structured right now. It's gonna be the last update where it adds a new form, like one new form each race, one new world, story quests. Like that formula is going away after this, and it's because number one, sort of running out of sagas to do that with, big sagas to make a big update surrounding in a new to warrant a new world, and number two, that takes too long. You know,
Yeah,
so,
no, for sure.
so I do think that it's a I think that the timing for everything right now couldn't be better because like I said, Halloween update, and then it's gonna make sense after Buu Saga to implement this form stuff, and those are the two biggest updates too that people want. People want Buu Saga and they want the new forms, those two specifically. So it's gonna be perfect timing for DBOG. It's gonna be the next October, November, December 2021 for DBOG, which for those of you who don't know, that's when Space, Fusion, and then more updates afterwards, even like more Otherworld updates came out after that and everything. Like that was the prime of DBOG. was those few months, you know. So I think that we're coming up on that again, and that's very exciting. Um, I want to. Is there anything else you wanted to add on to that, real quick? Just whatever we were talking about.
No, I mean I think that's a good spot
Okay,
to end that conversation at.
so let's try to speed run some concerns that I've seen because I think concerns are important to address. It's not something I wanted to make this whole thing about. I wanted this to be a big positive PR moment, get everyone excited again, get everyone's hopes up, get that bad taste in our mouth of like DBOG out. Like this is the new dev team and we're excited and we're happy. Things are good. But we do need to address little things. So, big complaint I see a lot is the NPCs are spammers, bro. Like and one thing too is that I was playing and I got caught in like about 30 seconds I couldn't play unless I wanted to use my evasive, and for some reason my evasives just don't work. I told you about it before. Like I don't know why, but certain evasives that I try to do, there's like a delay or it just doesn't work or whatever. I don't know if it's lag, if it's the evasive, if it's a I don't know. I don't know. But I just decided like, you know what? I'm just going to sit here like what if I was stamina broken? I'm going to sit here and I'm going to see how long it takes for me to be able to move again, because I was fighting Saiyans in space, and I accidentally hit one with solar flare, and so two were on me, and so I said, okay, 45 seconds went by of me getting blasted into the smithereens until I could move again, and it's like that even happens with just one, fighter, one NPC. Are we addressing
Mhm.
that?
So a couple of things to know about it. Number one, the AI gets more aggressive the lower its HP. So have that in your head that once that NPC starts getting low, it's gonna start picking up its pace. It starts soft and then it picks up its speed. It's kind of like, time for preparation. Like the first half of the fight shouldn't be hard. The second half of the fight, the NPC is gonna lock in.
Mm-hmm.
To put it lightly, the NPC is gonna increase its difficulty in its AI. Another thing is a lot of NPCs contain too many skill moves in their arsenal because NPCs have skills to them. And right now, I think they have more key skills than they do physical skills, whereas it should either be a balanced or more physical to kind of make the fight a little bit better. Right now, if you take a look at, I forgot the name of one of the like I think the Saiyan NPCs, they have like 4 or 5 different key attacks, but like one chase rush. And that's
Mm-hmm.
kind of their arsenal. They don't use counters. It's about changing up some of their skill sets to make a little bit more
And
sense.
then some NPCs do counters, and they have Ultra Instinct. Like,
Yeah, they're able to time it perfectly. So I've seen a lot of people complain about the difficulty of the NPCs, and I get it. It's not always easy, but that's where learning skills and practicing a little bit of PvP helps because the better you fight players, the better you fight NPCs.
that's definitely one thing I noticed is a lot of people were complaining, and I saw their complaints, but a lot less often, so I was able to brush it off. But then I thought about it. I'm like, well, maybe these players aren't as good as me, and it's like, okay, that definitely matters, because not everyone. Because I don't claim to be a good DBOG player at all. I don't PvP in the game. I don't like the system, so I don't ever claim to be one. And so if people start jumping me 9 times out of 10, I ignore them. Like I just like server hop or something. I don't even give them
Yeah,
the happiness to do so because it's not gonna make me happy, you know.
yeah.
Um,
And mind you, the only reason I made the claim of usually it's a skill difference
yeah.
isn't as, I'm not trying to come off as rude, but for example, I'm in the community a lot. I'm in the Discord kind of just watching what everyone's kind of talking about from time to time. A big thing that a lot of people say are, if a verified user is saying it. And for those that aren't in the Discord or the community, a verified is a brand new person. Like after talking for about 10 minutes in the Discord, you become bronze. So usually the people that I see complain about the NPCs are those that are only just verified, which means that they don't really talk much. They just show up once, drop a message, maybe two, and then they leave. They don't come back to the Discord.
Mm-hmm.
Those are usually the only people that I see that are complaining about the NPCs. Occasionally, I'll see maybe a silver or a gold say something along those lines, and those are more active members of the community. But realistically, it's very, very rare. If I
Yeah,
searched up NPCs, the majority are going to be verified players, which to me leads, okay, they're verified, they're new in the Discord. Either they just joined to complain about it,
and they don't play the
or
game often.
they don't play the game. Like that's where my head's at. If you don't play the game, you're new in the Discord server. If you played for a while, you're probably in the Discord server.
Mm-hmm.
Like there's a good chance. Like obviously, there's people that this isn't true by. There's really, like people who play the game consistently that are in the community server because that's just not their thing.
Yeah.
I don't doubt that. But realistically, from what data shows me and what if I can analytically analyze it, the verified community members are usually new players that don't necessarily know how the combat works.
Yeah.
That also stems from the players who skip the training mode or skip the tutorial-ish thingy and just kind of just close out of it instead of actually reading it. They end up struggling a little bit more and asking the questions of how to fly when the answer is in the second sentence of the first thing that pops up when you play the game.
Yeah.
That kind of falls up on, you're purposefully ignoring everything and then you have questions.
Mm-hmm.
So that's usually from, at least from the analytical side, how I view it. I view it as people aren't experienced and they're complaining about these NPCs. Granted, maybe there should be a way for it to be easier as well. Maybe we got to analyze it from the new player's perspective. How can the combat be made easier? And that comes to the thought of, and it kind of relates back to, slingshot and other mechanics where you have to learn and practice these mechanics for you to be good at the game. How can we make the very basic entry level combat better and more versatile to properly compensate for this? How can
Yeah.
we make combat easier to get
It
invested
goes
in?
back to PvP. It's the never-ending cycle.
Yeah, it all stems from PvP. Like realistically, Dragon Ball is fighting.
Mm-hmm.
You're either gonna fight a player, or you're gonna fight an NPC. Both have mechanics. In my eyes, the best way to get good at DBOG is to fight another player because there's actual thought to the process. Whereas NPCs, they use probability, chance-based activities,
Yeah.
detections of the player, etc. They just analyze data and recreate movements. That's what that is. A player, to you, that's random. Everyone's different. Until you start seeing that, hey, well, if it's so different, why did this guy, this guy, this guy, this guy who beat me up all use the same mechanic? Let me investigate. Then they learn the basic of slingshot, and then they get decent at it. Then they go back to an NPC, and that NPC that's the same level that they were struggling against suddenly gets beat up within a couple seconds because now you know what you're doing.
And one thing about that I think that I find to be like pretty interesting is that the the NPCs, I had no idea that their health determined how locked in they were. I had no idea. And I
Mm-hmm.
think one reason I had no idea again is slingshot, because when I'm slingshotting there's one pace to the fight for the entire fight, and that's this fast pace. The NPC, I don't get the chance to notice like, oh, he ramped up the fight, because the pace of the fight isn't changing at all. It's not like an IRL, not I say IRL. It's not like an actual Dragon Ball fight where like, you know, it's obviously a Dragon Ball fight is scripted and written, but like if you
Yeah.
look at the fights, Goku and Frieza they'll meet and they'll talk for a second, and then they'll have this really cool fight interaction where they look pretty equal, and then they'll stand there and they'll analyze again, and like the fighting style will change again, and like whatnot, and the momentum will swing. That's not really a thing in DBOG. It's all one pace. There's you know what I'm saying? Like there is momentum in DBOG, which I think the momentum in DBOG currently is kind of a bad thing, but again, I don't want to dive into it.
Mm-hmm.
But I think that that's another thing with it is like I'm fighting NPCs like I'd fight a player, and therefore, like when I get caught by an NPC who's on 1 HP, I chalk it up to like, oh, haha, very funny. Like this NPC magically has turned it up, and like he locked in or whatever. But that's an actual mechanic. I never put that together, like, because usually when I'm fighting just a lowly NPC, I stamina break him when he's about half HP, and then I kill him. If he happens to hang
Yeah.
on, like every once in a while, like yeah, I'll notice like he countered more, or he's spamming more, and it's like, damn, bro, this NPC locked in for real. But it's like
Yep.
I didn't know that was an actual thing. I'm sure nobody knew that. Like there,
Yeah, I didn't either until I said, like, what's making these NPCs so hard? So I started fighting it, and then like, honestly, what if I slowed down my fight? And I noticed he was half HP and he was tossing more stuff out. I'm like, wait a minute. So then I started a new fight, and I sat there and I like,
and you
let
looked
him.
at the code.
I didn't look much at the code. I don't like to go into there. That's a lot of lines,
Yeah,
a lot of code.
it's hard to
But
read it if you don't know exactly what you're looking for, I bet.
yeah, but no, I just it's simple as like going to a mob, hitting it a couple times and seeing what it does, and then getting it to red, and then seeing, and then there's a clear difference of how quickly they attack. Either I'm crazy and I'm just spewing BS, or this is a genuine thing. Like I'd have to learn how to read the NPC's AI system for me to 100% confirm it. But oh my mama, bro, there's
Oh my
something there with their
mama,
HP.
bro. Yo, maybe you
Like
need to
that's
text Sony real quick and be like, "Is this a thing?" So we're
yeah,
not
you know what?
spewing BS.
I
But
might have to just take it with a grain of salt, but go ahead and test it and let me know what you think, on your own time,
I
viewers.
believe you, bro. Because like when you said that, the moment that I instantly believed you is because I've had experiences like I said, where like every once in a while the NPC will be low, and like bro locked in. I'm like, damn, bro, that's crazy. Bro's Jiren now, and it's like I I think that one suggestion I have to make NPC grinding maybe a little less boring is nobody likes doing the kill 9 Saiyans quest. And it's because I'm fighting this nameless hobo, bro. Like who is this guy? And why does he go Super Saiyan? Like
Yeah.
to me when
Yeah.
I'm going through the DBOG story mode and like going through Earth for the first time, I'm like, "Oh shit, I'm fighting Vegeta, bro. Fuck yeah." And like that fight is awesome. But I don't want to have that fight with like a Cyberman or like
Mhm.
the Crane student. So for me, I think that making the boss AI as intricate, as cool, as powerful, as you know, intricate. I already said that word. Like
Yeah, yeah.
making it as cool as possible, as unique as possible, I think is amazing, and you should do that because at the end of the day, nobody's looking forward to fighting copy Vegeta. We want to fight Beerus and Goku Black and Jiren, you know? So I would say these like the grunt NPCs, the Crane Schoolmasters, the Cybermen, the copy Vegetas, like well I guess copy Vegeta's a little bit of an exception. He had his own arc to it, but you know what I'm saying. Like the nameless Saiyans like that we fight. Maybe the solution is to tone those people down because when Broly slam dunks me like prime LeBron James, it's funny and it makes sense. You know?
Mhm.
But when a Cyberman does it, it's just like, bro, what the fuck is this combat? It's like, and that makes sense to me. And I feel like a lot of people, are we gonna complain when Broly dunks on us like prime LeBron James? Probably not. It was
Come on,
Broly. Like
man.
that's what I was expecting. You know,
Yeah, like, and Broly is pretty tough. I mean,
he's
that was the
notable.
biggest complaint. Broly's hard. Yeah, no duh, it's Broly.
Yeah, notably a strong guy in the anime.
He's him. He
He
destroyed all of South Galaxy in 6 seconds. What do you expect?
he notably was kind of strong in the anime.
Just
And
a
it's
little
like
bit.
nobody's gonna be complaining when they're fighting Ultra Instinct Goku and bro is like lord
Actually
of the
has
game.
UI, and you're
Like
like, hang on,
nobody
what?
he's you're gonna be like, what the fuck? You're not
I don't know
gonna
if you've
be
seen
like,
it,
this game's
but
trash. Like no, but
but
like if I'm
there's
fighting
a
Ribrian, I say Ribrian, but like she
river.
should have a boss
Yeah,
fight. You know what I'm saying? But like
yeah.
if I'm fighting some fodder, I don't want this dude to be activating Ultra Instinct on my ass. You know?
No, for sure.
And so I think that's maybe one direction you guys could take it is tone
Yeah,
down
and that's how do we
those
make
NPCs.
raids and bosses more interesting
Yes.
and make the normal stuff just repetitive extra grind that you can do if you so wish.
Exactly. And I think that's perfect because when I'm making a leveling guide right now and without getting into it, I think that one amazing part of DBOG is the rewards for doing those low class warrior fight like prodigy Saiyan fight whatever royal Saiyan fight. The rewards are good, but it's just
Mhm.
not as fun. But the rewards are still good. And it's like it's optional. But when I go fight Broly, that's a big fight. It's gonna take me about 5-10 minutes or so to beat him, and the rewards are much better. And I think that that is great. Like have fun things that are very rewarding and challenging, and then have things that are a little more tedious and time consuming, not hard, but time consuming and tedious, and still
Yeah.
make them rewarding.
Yeah, it's just a matter of finding like, you know.
Because then it's depending on the player. Like, oh, you don't like going to fight all those Saiyans every day? Well, just wait 12 hours and fight Broly again and have fun.
Yeah, for sure.
And then making
I
that
think
Broly fight as fun as possible. You know?
I think DBOG has a good amount of like come, return the next day type of content, right? Where,
Yes, and I
there's Grand Kai where I can come back the next day. HTC, all right, cool. I'll come back the next day and do some of that. I think that has a good amount. What I think DBOG needs a little bit more of, and me and Sonny kind of discussed this a little bit not too long ago, where he thinks that DBOG needs just a little bit more come back every other day stuff.
yes, I do too.
I think it does need a little bit more, but something I think it needs more of now at a point where it's at is how
Yes.
do we keep players to do more things in the time that they come back to?
I think
Like
you're absolutely correct too. Yeah.
how can we
That's definitely
how
more
can we
true.
have players sit in the game and say, all right, you know what, now I want to,
Now I just want to
I,
play DBOG.
yeah, like
I just
now I
want to
just
play
want
the
to play it
game.
like,
I want to go PvP. I'm going to go do a raid with my friends, not because I have to, but because it's fun.
yeah, like that's something that needs to be established because right now DBOG you get stuff to, you know,
Mm-hmm.
be cool or enjoy the fact that you got it.
It needs both.
And
It needs the replayability, the feeling of
yeah, dude, there,
accomplishment, but it also
I think
needs to be fun.
I, th- I think there's good replayability now. Like the fact that I can go back and get HTC my stats. There's gonna be this, there's gonna be that. That's great. I think now DBOG just needs more of how much I could do in one session
Hmm.
for me to be entertained. Like am I gonna sit here and get HTC, Gravity Chamber, Red Kai in 30 minutes, come back the next day? Sure. But why can't I add another 30 minutes to grind out this boss that has so and so,
Yeah.
unique. Let's say we add just hypothetical, let's add a Go Tank boss, right? And let's give Super Ghost Kazi attack, right? Where it actually spawns in the ghost that it chases. It's a really cool move. But let's say it's a drop, it's a 1% thing, so it's really hard to get. You know what? I'm gonna go fight Gotenks. I want to see if I can get his move. I fight him like 6 to 8 times. I don't get it. I'm like, ah, dang it. You know what? Well, I tried today. Maybe I'll try it again tomorrow.
Yeah.
You come back, do your dailies, and you're like, all right, I'm gonna fight Gotenks one more time today. You go in, boom, you get it. Holy shit, like I got it. I'm cool. I'm chilling. Yes, let's go. And you get excited about it.
That's one thing about content drops that is so exciting.
Yeah,
Is
there
it
needs to
gives
be
you
more of
those.
that where even though it's grind, but it's worth it to get it once you do it. It's just a matter of adding different methods and different things that you can pick and choose from to make it entertaining as much, like just finding fun stuff to do.
Outside
That's
of
what I
just
think.
content updates.
Yeah, that's what I think DBOG needs because DBOG
Oh
is
yeah.
fun. Like I could wipe my slot right now, play through the story, and I could be entertained.
Mm-hmm.
But what's after the story? Because the majority of players, and this poll has done before in the community servers, more amount of people are PvE players.
Yeah.
So sure, we can add fighting and tournament and rank. That's cool and all, but the majority still prefers PvE. So what's for PvE players? Well, obviously more PvE. Like give them more stuff to fight. That's not another player. Reasons to fight NPCs, reasons to be a PvE player. There needs to be reasons for doing stuff, except for just want.
Yeah.
The people who want to repeat it will.
Not only do we need to make PvP better to convert PvE players into PvP, because generally it should all be mostly the same. Like, I'm sure there's
Mhm.
people who aren't going to be as competitive as much, and that's cool. But to just simply label someone a PvE player and simply label someone a PvP player, I don't like doing that. I don't like just saying, yeah, I played DBOG for the PvE. Like, no, I'm I play DBOG. Period. I'm a DBOG player. I'm just not a very competitive one.
Yeah, exactly. Like
And
I'll
so,
fight.
yeah,
I'll throw hands,
and
but
it's
I
like,
don't want to throw hands for 7 hours.
yeah, it's about finding the balance of, all right, we need to convert. We need to find reasons for PvE players to be playing PvP, and then we need to find reasons for people to be playing the game, grinding, leveling up, getting that feeling of satisfaction. If you unlock that cool move, or get that new clothing, or master your new form. So, that delved more into a lot of chatter. So that was the NPC keys spamming issue. So where the bottom line there is like, we're gonna look into it. and and like see like boss AI and make boss AI as fun as possible and maybe tone down the crony grunts. Is that something we're thinking about?
Say that one more time. I'm so sorry.
Um, basically with the NPC key spamming issues, because I don't think we derailed, but it just got a little chatty.
Yeah.
So what's the answer there? Just to wrap
Yeah,
it
I
up.
mean, it's it's something that we have to take a look at just in case there is something there, but I think it's just more so they become harder the lower they are. And it's a matter of you need to actually practice your skills rather than just go, go, go from time to time so you can get better. I don't mean it to be rude, but
Yeah.
it's more so of you do need to practice the skills that are being presented to you if you want to improve better. You don't have to fight players, that does help, but you want to practice the mechanics that the game has. That way you can perform better.
Yeah,
It's not just going
someone
to help you for NPCs, but for bosses, raids,
yes,
etc.
from my perspective as someone who, like I said, I'm not competitive, but I know the game mechanics enough. Fighting NPCs, even in the newest DBOG, it's not very hard for me. But I also have these moments where I'm like, I can see it. Like I see that it's not perfect right now, and
Mhm.
and that's why I brought up making bosses as fun as possible. And I think fighting bosses right now is chill as fuck, and I think it's cool, and we can improve more on that. But maybe we tone down the Cybermen, maybe we tone down the Royal Saiyans, And I think, like you said, with the move sets, that's one way to help that is maybe take away some of their key moves and put melee moves on them.
Absolutely, yeah. And that's just a matter of like kind of going
That's
over and
that
seeing if
is
there's
one.
a error on our side, like actually,
Yeah,
which I don't think there is, or if it's just a get good situation. It could be both. I'm not gonna sit here and say it's one or the other.
yeah.
They both definitely apply if that's the case. Like if the push comes to shove and we need to get rid of some of the key skills from NPCs, we'll do it.
Alrighty.
But
So,
you know,
all right,
I
moving on.
digress.
Yeah, I think that's a good way to put it. Moving on from that, so we talked about it a little bit. Stamina's at a weird point right now. Doing a lot
Mhm.
of simple actions takes more stamina than it ever has, and on top of that, there are skills that take like 1,000 stamina.
Mhm.
Skills that take 700 stamina that takes half my stamina bar to just use, and it's like, where are we at on that? Because we mentioned before, it feels like part one of an update came out and part two never came out, or a half released update came out or something like that. Like what are we looking at here with the stamina drain and key drain? I think stamina is a bigger problem, but the key thing is there too. It's both sides.
Yeah, so that's the thing, like I mentioned earlier, or it's just not necessarily it's not necessarily it wasn't necessarily finished properly, and there's a lot that can be put into it. Most of that should be fixed once the stats are and levels are reevaluated because that's all there included into how much stats affect your stamina and how much, that's where it gets deeper. Simply put, you could make the damage output easy. Um sorry, I'm blanking out a little bit, but
No, I got you.
try to find a good word for it. Hmm. Okay.
We go for it.
So it's the so for example, how it's kind of set up is, let's say one stat point is 2 damage. That's the thing. One stat point is 2 stamina. How do we change that? How do we change the drain? The drain and the levels and the cost and all that stuff is all kind of thrown around essentially, where it was never put in one place. And that's something that Sunny is going to be working on, is kind of having all the variables in one place so we can organize, balance, and change proactively without much difficulty and finding a good spot for them to belong into. And
Mm-hmm.
that would be step one of when we start balancing is, making, like I've said before, making levels matter more than skill points, finding a good number there. And then what number do we find for the actual individual cost strains, givens, and reductions.
Yeah. So it's
That's
something that's
where
being addressed right now. We're gonna look into that. That's what we're saying.
yeah, it's being slowly looked into. Like I said, that's one of those things where it's going to come slowly because we want some content to be pushed out
Yeah.
first, but it's something that's in the back of our head. Like, how can we improve it?
It's
When
there,
can this
yeah.
come?
Okay.
So it's just one of those things where it's a big, long process to balance this game out because there's so much stuff to do. It's just when do we get to it?
Mm-hmm. NPCs, a lot of people are seeing that there may be priority. So for example, if like I throw a blast at an NPC or something, like or if I'm fighting an NPC, it just feels like they have priority over me sometimes. Is that something in the code? Is that on purpose? Is that just server based? Because the
So
NPCs don't have ping.
yeah, I mean that I don't know how the best way to answer that. The NPCs are more so dependent on server performance, I guess. So if a server is strained or maybe like a server being old might have some effect and might affect it a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it depends on a lot of different factors. Like if your ping struggles, obviously you're going to struggle with the NPCs because the NPCs move on the server's performance rather than the player's
Yeah.
actual performance. So it varies. I have no concrete answer for that one, unfortunately.
Yeah, I got you.
Um, but yeah, I mean that's
It's
as best
okay.
as I could do.
I don't think it's as much of an issue as people are pointing out because again, I do think it's mostly a server issue. But I just I wanted to ask and see if there was anything on the DBOG side. It appears to be no. Like they don't just have it magically in the code that they have more priority than the player.
Yeah.
All right. One thing that I see a lot personally that I don't think a lot of people talk about, but let's say I'm slinging with someone and I go for a rush move to try to catch them off guard. I'm like, okay, they're not going to expect it if I throw out the rush move right here. Um is sorry, I blanked. I throw out a rush move and sometimes it just misses. Like I feel like okay, now's a good time to do it. And because he vanished at a certain frame, the rush move just misses.
Hmm.
And it's like, is there something we can do about that? Like, do you know what I'm talking about?
So like let's say you use a chase, I snap vanish right as you get to me, I don't get hit.
Yeah, and it just stops the animation. Is that on
Yeah,
purpose?
that's due to the iframes in a snap vanish. Whenever you snap vanish normally there's an iframe.
So there isn't a way we can change rushes to be like chase until the animation plays, or like
Um
until the distance at least cancels.
it could, but that might require a large recode of how some of the rushes.
I just feel like again this might just be a sling thing because it's gonna happen mostly with sling, but I feel like if I throw out a rush move, either I should be countered and punished for using my rush move at a dumb situation, or I should just hit the guy because he's running away. You know,
Um yeah, I mean it depends.
it's just I feel like that's just an issue. Maybe write that one down in the bug list. I don't know.
Yeah. I'm actually
Um,
typing it right now just in case to look into it.
because it's just annoying. Like it happens with my ult a lot, where like I'll have my ult and I'll throw out a blue Kaioken assault, and it just my ult is for naught. You know, and it's a little frustrating.
Hmm.
And then just with like meteor combination, that shit takes a lot of stamina, you know? And it's like, well, sucks.
Yeah,
Um
no, I get it.
Many players aren't playing on high tier consoles or computers. I'm not saying
Mhm.
like um what's the word? Like I'm not saying like reduce lag, you know? Like it's
Mhm.
not that simple. But could we see like a low graphics mode like Final Stand? I don't know if you knew, but Final Stand had like a
Um,
low GFX button and it would simplify.
oh,
That was mostly for the map, but I'm thinking maybe in DBOG there these moves have so much effects. Is there maybe just a button because I like the effects and my computer can run it and a lot of people's computers can run it. But a lot of
mhm.
people on an old console or on a bad laptop because you know it's a Roblox game. This game should be for everybody to an extent. If someone tells me like, "Hey, I'm so laggy all the time. I run it at like 20 FPS." I'm like, "Dude, you shouldn't be playing DBOG on a potato." Like, sorry,
Yeah.
bro. But I do have some sympathy because I didn't always have a good I remember specifically playing DBOR on a bad computer. my beam would physically move slower because of how bad my computer was when I was a
Yeah,
kid.
I
And it's
I remember
like
that too.
that sucked. And it's like,
Yeah.
okay, it's
Granted, back then that was more like a Roblox thing where your client would have more
yeah,
impact on the server.
yeah.
Luckily, Roblox has evolved in a way where it isn't. The best thing I could say to answer that is, as much as it hurts to say, like I would love to implement that, but that would be a little bit more difficult than you think.
Okay.
And at a point where Roblox is now, those big, rotating mesh parts when you shoot a beam and all that stuff, that doesn't necessarily impact your computer's performance. It more so impacts the server's performance. A rotating part isn't going to cause much lag. Maybe like an abundance of particles, but DBOG doesn't have an abundance of particles.
There's
So what you're
people, I'll say like the example I get is like someone they say like certain beams or certain blasts when people throw that out, that's when people experience a lot of frame drops.
Mhm.
And so I don't
Yeah,
know what would cause that if it was
yeah,
the effects or whatnot.
it could be a multiple things. Like the server will definitely have an impact on it. And maybe it's just your computer can't handle those levels of effects. And I mean, unfortunately, like we could do like a lower effect quality mode. But how do we define that? How do we go through, you know, 400 different, 500, 600 different effects and determine how we can make a low graphics option for those, and what gets turned off, what stays on. At that point, it's
It'd be a little hard, yeah, to find the balance. So
little would be
yeah,
an understatement, unfortunately. Like that's
what
if you
a
were to sit here and tell me like, oh, can you make a low outclass for like the 50 skills that we have in game? Okay, that's possible. But now you're looking at over, hundreds of moves,
yeah.
hundreds of different forms, hundreds of different, you're looking at crazy numbers.
I guess like what specifically do you know affects FPS the most in DBOG? Is there something specifically that affects it the most?
Ooh. I think it's when a lot of players and NPCs use skills at the exact same time. That's when it lags a lot. And they use really large skills and more specifically, terrain destruction.
Okay.
That's when all these parts are being flung around and
Is
a lot of
there
stuff is going on.
a way to disable frame or not frame terrain destruction on my end but not on the server's end?
Um, yes, but
Like the
that would include like if it's visually not there for you, you would be able to go inside of a brick. However, on my end, because it's a server, on my end, the brick would still be there and I can't go in it.
okay.
So
So
unfortunately, there's no real way for that to be accomplished without introducing a bunch of weird looking stuff.
I mean, maybe it would just have to be like a sportsmanship thing where like, all right, we're PvPing, let's both disable terrain destruction for our clients so that way, our FPS doesn't go down, something like that. But if I'm just playing
Yeah,
the game, I can have it on.
that's the unfortunate part is sportsmanship on a game doesn't necessarily apply, especially,
Yeah.
like that's asking for a lot for a lot of people. Essentially my point is there shouldn't be a reasoning for people to have to agree to not do something.
Yeah.
At that point, if you don't want to lag, like, hey, can we go to Otherworld and can we fly all the way up? That's more sportsmanship, like
Okay.
finding ways around the lag, or hey, let's reserve a server and go in here and then fly all the way up so we don't destroy anything. Okay, I could do that for you. That's where
Alrighty.
that comes in. But expecting it to happen, period, in any server, that's a little bit unrealistic, unfortunately.
So a low graphics mode is something we'd have to take. It would take a lot of resources and time for.
Now, granted, there is a disable textures button that does help people.
Okay.
It disables a bunch of the textures and all that stuff. So, it's in the options right now in game.
Okay. I didn't even know
That
that.
that does help performance, but as far as effects go and stuff, that's a little bit harder to do.
It'd be harder. Okay. Okay. So, alrighty, I gotcha. Um, someone someone said keybinds, so like PC and console keybinds maybe, is that something? Because there's like a option, Q and E versus M1 M2. Is keybinds
Yeah.
like an idea
Um,
that could be implemented?
could be. It's unfortunately more complex than you think.
Okay.
Just because of how keymap, key mapping and all that stuff is, and how you can kind of combine it. And how
Yeah.
to, how can I make sure that a player doesn't have conflicting keybinds? How can we do this, that? So unfortunately, it's a little bit harder to implement, especially with how old DBOG is. It's where it's not necessarily set up to be modular and easy to configure. It's more so just the term is called hard coded, which means it's harder to access things and harder to kind of understand unless you know what you're doing. The unfortunate part is, keybinds are placed everywhere. So it's a more grueling task that at a point just doesn't become necessarily worth it because it's so difficult to do. The a big thing for development is time invested compared to time spent used.
Okay.
Um, so in a sense, you have to compare of, well, if we make this feature, let's say doing keybinds, unfortunately, could take us like a month.
Yeah.
Okay, is 1 month's worth of our time worth developing this feature and only this feature worth the minutes and gameplay for this one person
Yeah.
from now to the end? And if you were to tell me this in, let's say in Saga when the game first came out, I would say, yeah, it's definitely a thing. We take 1 or 2 weeks because there's less involved
Mhm.
and make keybinds an option. That wouldn't be a problem. I would invest that time. But now if you're asking me now where it would take 1 to 2 months to make keybinds work with all the other stuff we've got going on, and the amount of time people would spend, the amount of players who would actually spend time, configuring their keybinds, it wouldn't necessarily be a worthwhile investment unless there's literally nothing else for us to do.
Gotcha. Alrighty. One concern I saw, there's only two more, so we're almost done.
Okay.
After a few updates of changing a lot of visuals and customization,
Mhm.
could players get a free recustomization of their characters on each slot? Is that something that you know of?
Um, yeah, we've been talking about it. We might do something along the lines when we implement some more customization options that we've have planned and just sitting in the back burner that
Okay.
never got implemented.
So there's more coming.
Yeah, there's more coming to customization without going to specifics. Some
Yeah.
races will be able to look a little bit nicer than they have.
Good.
Um, and when we do implement that stuff, that's when we'll do a free character customization or
Okay. Cool.
a stat point reset when we do implement like stat changes and stuff. We don't
Yes.
want to, unfortunately, we
Absolutely.
don't want to, damage people.
You
And I
don't
know
want to
some of
screw
the race
people over.
abilities changed and some of the traits changed, so it's unfortunate we weren't able to give those out. We just thought it'd be unwise for us to do that
Do
without
that
the
now and
rest of the
then more
balancing.
coming. Okay.
We'd have to do it again and again and again, and that would just get exhausting. So it'd be
Yes, it
better.
would. Because there was a period where DBOG did that a couple times in a row and it was exhausting. So
Yeah.
I do agree with that. Okay. So stat changes when the stat update comes are coming. So those of you who got a little messed over with the reallocation of stats, hang in there, you know. And then same thing with anyone whose characters got messed up. If you don't want to summon Shenron to do it, then I
Yep.
guess you're gonna have to wait. Speaking of Shenron,
Hmm.
how happy are we with the Dragon Ball system right now? Um, are we thinking about adding any more wishes right now? Is that something on the radar right now? No pun
Um.
intended, radar.
So right now where it stands, I think it's at a good point where if we add more wishes, it'd be harder to introduce like if we ever want to introduce like Super Shenron.
Yeah.
The hardest part about making Shenron and Purunga was finding wishes to do for that level
Mhm.
without them being strong.
Yeah.
Because realistically, like in my head, when I'm making these wishes, I'm like, oh, I want to do this. We could give players that. But then I'm thinking about, I'm like, well, damn, that's kind of strong. Shall we give this a Shenron? If this is so strong already, what do we give to the next guy?
Mhm.
That was the hardest part about making the dragons originally. So we
So we
haven't
think
really
they're
gone
good right
back to,
now.
yeah, I think they're at a point where they're really good. There's a lot of good options. I think maybe Ultimate Shenron needs a better repeatable.
I feel like that.
Um,
I feel like people think that with Purunga as well. Because Purunga, what is his repeatable really like items?
Zenny,
Purunga gives
two
any?
times Zenny.
Oh, two
No,
times
he doesn't
any.
give Zenny.
Okay.
He gives 2 times Zenny. He gives, he had the 5 for the trade, so it's not repeatable necessarily. It was the Senzu beans, and then there was one more that was repeatable. I don't remember which one it was.
Okay, because someone brought up to me that Purunga didn't seem too repeatable, and I guess it makes sense with the two times anything. Not everyone is gonna need the Zenny. And if that's just
Yeah.
gonna be something you have to pick up anyway because it's one of the only repeatable ones, then that's kind of lame. But
Yeah, I mean,
I
I think
if Ultimate Shenron is a little, you know, needs it more, then let's focus
I
on that
think
more.
I think Ultimate Shenron doesn't necessarily have any repeatables that are worthwhile. Like Shenron, its best repeatable is probably like either the Zenny or the free character customization.
Mm-hmm.
And Purunga's best one, it only has one, and that's the full reincarnation where you could change your race.
Okay.
Those are the that for Ultimate Shenron, that's the best repeatable. I think it just needs one more repeatable that's
I
good.
I
Because
feel
for
like
Purunga,
I feel like that's fine having it like have a repeatable that's not something that you want to do every single time that you can, and more
yeah,
so when you need it, it's there. I feel like that's fine.
and for Purunga, I think Purunga applies more to the fact of you can use it when you can. You know, it's not when you need because his repeatables are simple.
Mm-hmm.
You remember you get 3 wishes from Purunga.
Yeah.
So the people who decided, you know what, let me spend 15 minutes today grabbing all the Dragon Balls and Namek. Let me wish on Purunga real quick. Those people have like 200, 300 sensu beans. They're set for forever on sensu beans.
Yeah.
You know, like they're chilling. You know,
I have
everything
like
else is a
90.
bonus. Yeah, some people have. When I tell you thousands, they have thousands because they just repeat Purunga all the time.
Yeah.
So Purunga is good there. I think the one that would only, in my opinion, the only one that would ever get another wish being added would maybe be Ultimate Shenron,
Okay.
just a better repeatable.
Okay.
Um, because anything else you'd want to add, I fret might just be a little too strong. And we would rather save that for maybe like Super Shenron, you know, at the end of,
Alrighty. I believe that wraps up most of the concerns I have. I do. I'm how I'm gonna do this is I'm gonna edit through and really take the big conversation, like not big conversations as in length, but like the big talks, and make that one video where I'm like, it's probably gonna be like 20 maybe 30 minutes hopefully of like the big questions like the legend forum, the paths, the new forums, the new updates, stuff like that, and then the positive news about the dev team, stuff like that. And that's going to be one short video, and then along with it I'll probably upload this one as an uncut version. Is probably what I'll do.
Yeah, works for me.
Okay, so that's about it. I'm really happy with the dev team. I think that this is amazing news. It came so out of the blue, and it's awesome. And I'm finally a YouTuber again, and it's really awesome for me specifically. So thank you. Like it it does suck like to have to like admit this and say this, but like with when YouTube sort of like left my life, like it really was a lot harder because that was my job for so long, you know. So
Yeah, for sure.
and it's like I'm not blaming DBOG for that obviously because it's like there's so much that it's just unlucky being a Roblox Dragon Ball YouTuber. Like that's just unlucky,
Mhm.
you know. But
There was a dry spell for a while there.
oh yeah, there was definitely a drought. Yeah, you could say that. But now it's like, all right, my sights were set on Final Stand Remaster. I was like, okay, I'm gonna wait for that. Now that DBOG is back in the swing of things, it definitely feels like let's go. Like now we can do this too, and this is added onto that. And DBOG is now once again this amazing game that it was, and it has always been. Cause like I'll say it right now, I think one of the most fun I've ever had playing Roblox Dragon Ball was when DBOG came out because it was so many people from Final Stand coming over, and we're all just experiencing this new game, and we're all going through doing different things. Like one guy will be finally achieving full Super Saiyan, and then I'll go up to him and grief him with my Majin absorption. And it was just the funniest shit in the world. And it's just everybody's doing this and figuring everything out. It was so
Yeah.
amazing. So yeah, I'm gonna end it there. Thank you for the conversation.
Yes,
Very,
sir.
very good. Very fun. Very good.
Yep. All right. Great talking to you, Bobby. Take it easy.
You too. See ya.